Okay, so the first round of the NBA draft just went down, and I think there's been a few winners and a few losers in this class, and in my opinion, I'm probably going to be a little different than most people just because I usually have a little bit different draft grades on some guys, and I'm also a lot more honest on the prospects I just simply do not like. Now, if I do not mention your team in here, it doesn't mean I think you had a bad draft, it just means I'm either indifferent or I just think you drafted like one player and it was just like, okay, like he was a decent guy. So I'm not going to say you're a loser just because you picked one guy. I'm not going to say you're a winner, though, if you just pick one guy, or if that one guy you picked, I don't think is bad or that good. So if you're there, you probably just think, in my head, I just think you have an average first day in the first round. But to me, I do have a few clear winners, a few clear losers, and even some honorable mentions that I'm going to mention a little bit later in this video. So if that does sound interesting, you please watch the video all the way through, and let's get right into this video. Okay, so the first winner I have for this video is going to be the Washington Wizards. Now, the Washington Wizards actually had 3 selections in this round, and they were able to get Alex Sarr with the second overall pick in their first selection. And now Alex Sarr, I think, even him falling to 2 is pretty crazy, because I thought Alex Sarr was by far the best player in this draft class. He has the most potential. He actually even filled a huge need for the Wizards. I know they had Tristan Vucevic, and I actually like Tristan Vucevic, but you're not passing up on Alex Sarr because you have Tristan Vucevic on your roster. So I think for sure Alex Sarr was a home run of a pick for them. And now, yes, it was an obvious pick, so you can't give him all that much credit for getting him, but I think the fact that he fell to them is a huge home run, a huge plus for them, and he's going to greatly impact the future of their team. Now, their next selection I actually wasn't the biggest fan of, Bub Carrington. Yes, he does have a high ceiling, but he's kind of one of those guards in college who was very inefficient. He had very much a roller coaster of a college season. He definitely had his moments. I know why you would pick him, because his potential is through the roof, but he's kind of too inconsistent for me, and I wouldn't have picked him, but I can definitely see the upside in him. But the reason I really have them in the winner is because their last addition was Keyshawn George out of Miami with the 24th pick. Now, Keyshawn George, I absolutely loved. Now, I think I had him in my top 20 in prospects, so they picked him around where I thought he should go, but Washington usually doesn't make good draft picks late in the round, and I think they made a very solid one. Keyshawn George has great size for his position. He can shoot the ball very, very well. He's a solid athlete. He has good two-way potential, and we've seen these archetypes work in the NBA, and I just think overall he will provide to be a very solid player for them going forward. And overall, I think the Wizards really hit on 2 of the 3 picks, and even the guy that I'm not too high on still has very high potential and a high ceiling, and if he does end up hitting and becoming a consistently good player on the offensive end and can score at a consistent rate, he could also be a very, very good pick. And now my second winner of this class is going to be the Utah Jazz. Now, the Utah Jazz had 2 selections, and their first one was the 10th overall pick, selecting Cody Williams. And Cody Williams, although he also had a weird college season in Colorado, he got off to a great start, got injured, and then kind of got benched by his coach. And then, although he still got a lot of time off the bench, he didn't look like the same guy, so no telling if he was playing injured or what. But the beginning of the season, he looked like an absolute beast. And Cody Williams, I think, at worst, will be a solid role player, solid two-way guy. Maybe not a superstar or anything, but I definitely think for the Utah Jazz, he is going to be a solid starting level player for them, and overall is just a very okay guy. But then what I really like is at 29th overall, on one of the last picks of the first round last night, they got Isaiah Collier. And Isaiah Collier, I think, although I had him much higher than where he went, I think he is one of the best value picks of the entire class. He is a very strong guard who can make his own shot. He's a very solid passer. His defensive potential is pretty high despite him being short due to how strong he actually is. And he is just overall an extremely, extremely good guard. And I could easily see them, once they trade Jordan Clarkson or Colin Sexton, that this team could definitely be starting Keontae George and Isaiah Collier for a very long time in their backcourt. And I think it will be one of the higher potential ones going into next year. And I think Isaiah Collier is going to probably one of those guys that are like, how the hell did he fall that far? And I just think the Utah Jazz got an absolute steal with him, and they added 2 extremely solid pieces to this roster. And now the third team, which is the only team I have on here as a winner that only picked one player, is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who picked Jalen Tyson. Now, Jalen Tyson at the 20th overall pick, I absolutely love. I had Jalen Tyson as I think a top 12 player in this class, and he is just a 3-level scorer. He's a great shooter. He fills a huge need the Cavs have had for a few years now. It looks like they're finally going to move on from Isaac Okoro, who just was not working out for them, and they finally figured that out. And I just think overall Jalen Tyson is a huge upgrade over Isaac Okoro. Now maybe defensively and athletically, no, but everywhere else, very much so. And that offense is going to help them out a ton. And I think now the starting five of Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jalen Tyson, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen is extremely fun to watch. And pair that with Karis LeVert off your bench, and even Craig Porter Jr. and guys like that, Georges Niang. And I just think this team got a whole bunch scarier, and it's going to be a very fun team to watch as well. And then the final winner I have in this draft class is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Minnesota, although I think had a weird class, I think they had a great class as well. The first thing they did was trade 2 first-round picks for Rob Dillingham from the San Antonio Spurs, and I think that was an unbelievably good move. The Timberwolves, a team that literally just made the second round and was an absolute beast of a team, I think the Timberwolves getting Rob Dillingham is insane, because he could be the best player in this class one day. He has Tyrese Maxey potential, in my opinion, and now you're going to have that coming off your bench, at least in year 1, and in the future, you could have him starting alongside Anthony Edwards, which is extremely intriguing if you were a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. And I just think overall, Rob Dillingham was a home run of a get for the Timberwolves, because off the bench next year, he is going to look like an absolute weapon. And then even at the 27th overall pick, they went and selected Terrence Shannon Jr., and I'm actually a pretty big fan of Terrence Shannon Jr. Now, I'm not I think he's great. I think he's going to be a very solid offensive guy. The only reason I said it was a weird draft class, but a good one, is because, like I said, I'm high on Terrence Shannon Jr., and I like the pick. But I don't know how he's going to fit with Rob Dillingham in the backcourt for the bench. But on the bright side, they should have 2 extremely good scoring guys off their bench. Now, I would imagine Shannon probably won't get as much playing time as Dillingham will in year 1. But in the future, I mean, maybe in the future they're planning on Conley retiring or leaving, starting Dillingham, and then having Shannon take Dillingham's role, which long-term makes sense. But in the short term, it's just kind of a weird class. But I do think in the long term, it will all pan out. And they've got 2 extremely good, productive offensive guys for the long-term future of this team. And now it's time to move on to the losers of this class. Now, the losers, I only have 3 of them, and in my opinion, they're pretty big losers. At least the first 2 are. The last one, I mean, it was late in the round, so you could argue, I mean, they were just swinging for the fences, but the first 2, I think, are very rough. The first one is going to be the Charlotte Hornets, and they picked Tidjane Salaün. Now, I understand I butchered his name, but trust me, I know who he is. And although I don't think he is a horrible player by any means, to pick him 6th overall is absurd. Why you wouldn't trade down, or just trade out of this class, or just trade down, Hornets? Why would you pick him at 6? No one was picking him top 10. I don't know what their hurry was to get the guy. But to me, they just drafted a defensive role player with a little bit of offensive upside. And doing that at just 6 is kind of crazy, because you had a real opportunity to upgrade your power forward position, upgrade your bench, upgrade so many positions that this team desperately needs to get upgraded. And you added Salaün, who will be a solid defender and maybe an okay offensive guy one day. You drafted kind of a weirder kind of version of Dyson Daniels. Not ideal for the Hornets, definitely not what they needed. Or, I mean, even if he does feel a need, he's just not talented enough to really raise the ceiling of this team, in my opinion. And I just think overall that was just a rough pick. And then the next loser I have is the New Orleans Pelicans, my favorite team in the entire league. I have them as a definite loser by drafting Wes Missy. Now, Missy, he's a center, so he does feel a need, but that's about all you can say about him. If you watch any tape on the guy, you would understand all he does is dunk. And doing that as a 7-footer who's a good athlete is not ideal. He has literally a -% chance of ever shooting a jump shot in the NBA. He literally did not attempt a single jump shot in Baylor once. He didn't do it even once. He was a 61% shooter from the free throw line, And you're pairing that with Zion, who desperately needs floor spacing. Not desperately, like he can still work without it. Like he played with Steven Adams. Like that's basically the same situation, just Steven Adams is a little bit better. But Missy has a 0% chance of doing. We don't have a true point guard on the roster, so it's not even like the pick and roll game is going to be dangerous with him. I don't think he can guard the perimeter of NBA guys, and overall, he's not that good of a rebounder for how big he is. He only averaged 5 rebounds in college. So it just doesn't make any sense. And then you had guys like Kyle Filikowski still on the board, Quentin Poe still on the board, Ulrich Conchi still on the board. You had a lot of other bigs to pick from. Day'Ron Holmes was still on the board. Now, I know he's 6'9", but he is the league's better. And they just had so many other options they could have went with. And in my opinion, they picked a guy that had no business even getting drafted. If I'm a GM, I would never draft him because there's just so many guys like him in free agency, so many guys like him already in the NBA, and there's just no point in picking him with a first round pick ever. And at best, I think we picked up our backup center of the future, and doing that with the first round pick is definitely not ideal for a team that has 0 centers currently on the roster before this pick. So I just think overall it was a rough pick. He's not going to ever be anything but, I think his absolute ceiling is Daniel Gafford, and then like his low is like Alexis Agensa. Like he's just rough, dude. Like it's just a rough pick. And I mean, he's at best our backup center of the future, which is not great to use the 21st pick in the draft for at all. And then the Phoenix Suns, I have them as my last loser. And the only reason I have them as a loser is because of how low I am on Ryan Dunn. I understand the hype. He's a very good defensive prospect. The problem is that is only 50% of basketball, and the other 50% of basketball, he is almost incompetent at. Offensively, he is one of the worst prospects you will see, but defensively, he's one of the best, if not the best prospect in this class that you will see. So, I mean, there's a kind of a yin and yang there, but the problem is that you can't just be good at 50% of basketball and expect to succeed in the NBA. Like, you have to be good at one and be at least decent at the other one, at least competent in the other 50% of basketball. And unfortunately, that's what those last 2 losers just kind of failed to see. And I just think overall, it's a rough pick. Both of those players probably won't really be contributing much. And just overall, I think definitely those are the 3 losers of the first round 100%. And then just kind of wrap up the video, some honorable mentions. And by honorable mentions, I mean, these are drafts that I absolutely do like. It's just, I don't think they did enough. They only drafted 1 guy, or I'm not 100% certain about it. But these are honorable mentions of drafts that I do like. The first one is going to be the Denver Nuggets, who drafted Day'Ron Holmes. I love the fit with him. He's a great player. He got him at 22. I think he's going to be a great contributor for the Nuggets. And for a contender to add a guy like Day'Ron Holmes, I think is an absolute home run. The second one is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers, who got Dalton Knecht. Now, Dalton Knecht, I think, will be an absolute beast for them. He's a great small forward. He's a very good offensive player. He can score from all 3 levels. He has two-way potential. Could even be a star one day. Who knows? I think the Lakers got an absolute home run in Dalton Knecht. The Detroit Pistons with the 5th overall pick got Ron Holland. Now, I understand a lot of people's reservations about Ron Holland not being able to shoot on a team that desperately needs shooting, and I understand that, trust me. But I think his upside was too much to pass up, especially if you're Detroit, who like, fuck it, if we miss, what are we going to be, the worst team in the NBA? We're already that. So, I mean, it's not like they had a lot to lose, so you might as well swing for the fences, and if Ron Holland hits, you got an absolute superstar on your hands, and overall, one of the better players in the entire draft, probably, compared with Cade, and you pair that with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and I think you're going to start cooking with something and start to build a foundation. And then the last honorable mention I have is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it is purely because they added Dylan Jones at 26. I did not like the Nikola Topic pick at 12. He has a torn ACL. For a guy who already cannot shoot at all, he's now going to lose a whole year of his career not being able to develop that shot at an NBA level. He's going to lose probably a little bit of athleticism and speed the little that he did have. He's going to lose some of that. And then on top of that, I just don't like a guard that cannot shoot at all in today's modern NBA. And if anything, I think you got a worst version of Josh Giddey, which is not ideal for them. But hey, if they like that archetype of player, I guess more power to them. Overall, I just don't think he's going to be that good for the Thunder. But I do think Dillon Jones at 26 was maybe the steal of the class. Dillon Jones, to me, could have star potential. He can score from all three levels. He's a beast at everything. His motor is insane. He's a great defender. He's also a great offensive guy, and he can catch and shoot. He can get in the paint. He can get rebounds. He just does anything you want him to do. And the fact that they're going to have Dillon Jones off their bench is kind of absurd, and just overall, I think is going to help them a ton and fit with them extremely, extremely well. And the Oklahoma City Thunder got an absolute dog in Dillon Jones. But that's going to be all my winners and losers of the first round. I'm going to probably make this for the second round as well. And I hope you liked the video at any point. And if you did, hit the like button and subscribe button. It means the absolute world to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.